Welcome to Becoming Friends, Partners, and Lovers. My name is Kevin Thompson. Dr. Randy Nordell is with us, and we have a guidebook that is now out that goes along with the book Friends, Partners, and Lovers. And yet, this is all new material. This isn't a copy and paste over into this. We took a white space and said, okay, the book is out there. Now, how can we put this into a meaningful format that's good for primarily two purposes? We have the idea of small groups. And then you have, for a good amount of time, mentored other couples. So what does marriage mentoring look like, and why is it so meaningful to you?
Yeah, so Kelly and I, my wife Kelly and I have been involved with marriage mentoring for quite some time and been able to mentor younger couples. And kind of the way I view it is just we're a little farther down the path of life than these couples we're mentoring, and we're turning back and we're shining the light back on the path and saying, okay, it's rocky, it's scary, it's unsafe in places, but you're gonna be okay. Come along, come along, follow us, and hopefully our marriage isn't perfect by any means, but hopefully some of the things that we've learned that we're able to pass down, and it's a really valuable ministry. I see this workbook being used in that marriage mentoring as well as small groups also, and so. Friends, Partners, and Lovers. We base this guidebook on that. Tell me a little bit about that, or tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been a decade ago when I first wrote the book. So the basic concept that I was looking at is in every job I've had, there's been a job description. Like whenever you're applying, before you're even allowed to take the job, here's the description. Here's what's demanded of you, the results you're supposed to get. And as I begin to think about marriage, I'm like, there's no job description. What am I supposed to do? I love Jenny. We'd been married a decade at that time. I love her. Am I giving her what I'm supposed to be giving her? How can I do better at that? What does that look like? And so I just began to kind of pursue after that question. It's just interesting to me as a believer, as a pastor. You look at how God, his original creative order. Obviously, sin entered the world, that changed things, but it didn't change the original design. And so if you go back to Genesis 2, you have this idea of God says it's not good for Adam to be alone. And so he says, I will make a helper fit for him. So helper implies this idea that there's a task. And Adam and Eve ultimately were put in a garden and giving a cultural mandate, take this and make it better. It's the same mandate you and I still have today of take this world that God has created and steward over it and make it better. But a helper fit for him. So God parades all the animals in front of Adam, and basically the text says there wasn't a fit. So there were plenty of helpers.
Right.
The horse was going to be helpful. The donkey was going to be helpful. But there wasn't the right fit. So what's the uniqueness about Eve over all the other animals? I think it's this issue of equality. It's another human being, equal but yet different. And so that's what I think friendship really is about, is there's this other person that we have these shared similarities, and yet there are differences that are there. And then obviously the chapter ends with this idea that Adam and Eve were naked and they were not afraid. And the moment sin enters the world, the first thing they do is they cover themselves, they have shame. So you look back to Genesis 2 and go, okay, there seems to be kind of these three distinct characteristics of what a healthy marriage looks like: friendship, partnership, and then lover. And then we begin to look at, all right, what creates those? What provides the basis for those things? And it seems to me that what distinguishes somebody from being my friend and not being my friend is trust. If I can trust you, we can have a lot of shared experience. And then partnership is different. I can trust you, but I don't necessarily want to work with you. Working together and partnering together really is, you have skills that make me better, and it is this issue of respect. And then the idea of what is intimacy. Intimacy now is Jenny sees me in a way that nobody else sees me and yet loves me completely. So this idea of friend, partner, and lover really is, whenever I do marriage conference, I always have couples stand up and I say, all right, take your spouse by your hand. That's what friendship looks like. You're walking hand in hand, trusting one another. Now turn back to back. They turn back to back. All right, that's what partnership now looks like. You scan the horizon, look for threats and opportunities. She can do the same. Now turn face to face. Now this is what intimacy looks like. So I think for the average couple, if they know that I have somebody who's by my side, who has my back, who sees me and loves me completely, that's a really good marriage. So that's what we're trying to go for in this guidebook.
I think it's awesome, and I think the guidebook is basically taking your book and condensing it down into a small group format, into a marriage mentoring type format, and it really is a good guidebook. We just a little bit about it. We have the topic of each session. We have some reflection questions that each person individually goes through. We have some reflection questions that you go through with your spouse or partner, and some you can go through in a small group, in a mentoring relationship. And then we also have some follow-up, some things to build, and just about being intentional. And I think this is really helpful because I look at a marriage and you take these two really distinct humans. Kelly and I grew up very different. Smash us together. We're in proximity all the time. We both have sharp edges. We both are going to cut each other with those sharp edges because we're in such close proximity. I think over time, our goal is to round off some of those sharp edges. And I think we do that for each other. We help each other round those off. And I think that's kind of the goal of our relationship. Make each other better, draw close to each other, but polish each other a little bit, and help chip off sharp edges and become better. And then ultimately influence others with that relationship that you have, having that God-honoring relationship, allow that to flow into the lives of others.
Yeah.
And so I think that really is our goal with the workbook the guidebook in a small group setting, a mentoring setting, good material.
Let's talk about the value of that, because I know a lot of couples, and I mean, I'm a guy, and so my first thought is, okay, I'm willing to do this only with you.
Yeah.
Like, let's do this together. Yeah. And really what I'm going to try to do is then try to get out of it.
Right. Yeah.
But there is a power now in community, whether it be 5 or 6 couples together in a small group, or what you lead so well, this marriage mentoring where it's me and Jenny, it's you and Kelly, and we're meeting together. What is the power now of having outside people? What is the power of doing this in group rather than just doing this alone?
Yeah, I think we all have blind spots. We move forward, we're kind of staying in our lane, and we miss things. And I think inviting others in, whether that be one other couple or 4 other couples, whatever the setting be, we get to see ourselves at a different angle. I think our spouse helps us do that to some extent. But the more we trust other people and sit in a setting, be vulnerable, be open and honest, and that continues to grow through time. As it's not going to happen in the first session necessarily. It's just going to grow through time. But I think allowing other people in, seeing us from different angles, being able to speak truth in our lives, us the same in other people's lives, helps us to become better, helps us to grow, helps us to honor God more with our lives, and keeps us moving forward. It really does. Helps us to not become stagnant.
And I absolutely, I think the intentionality of it is very important, because it's one thing if Jenny and I say, hey, we're going to do this together, it's so easy to forget or just. But if I have an appointment with somebody else, and they're depending on me, that's one thing. I also think that the power of others specifically is a couple things. Not only is it an aspect of intention, no question. They can, as you said, point out in us maybe things that we're not seeing. So there might be issues that I think are major and significant, and they hear that and they kind of laugh, and they're like, no, everybody goes through that. And so what feels so isolating and alone for me can now feel very normal, which is encouraging. Or there are other issues that we just think are normal, and you're working hard not to have your face show the shock that, and to be able to say, hey, that's significant. You got to watch out for that. We talk throughout the book. On occasion, there are these red flags that you have to watch out for. And then I also think there's a power just in this idea of, hey, y'all are just as screwed up as we are.
Absolutely.
And yet you're loving each other and you're figuring out, and you're working through issues. So to hear another couple, what they're going through, and to know that you're kind of going through that as well. I think in a small group setting, there's a certain power in, as somebody is sharing their story, we almost can't help but think about the advice that we would give. Now, in small group, we shouldn't give that advice. This is not about giving advice. But we think about, oh, here's what they need to do. Well, as you do that, apply that to yourself. Oh, well, here's what I should do. Jenny helps me with this all the time. She'd be like, didn't you write?
Right here, page.
And it's true. The advice I'm giving to others really does kind of apply to me as well. Let's kind of flip through the book just a little bit to kind of help people understand what they're going to see, what they're going to look at, and some of the things are there, basically how to use this. And let's start with these 2 things. One, no matter the setting, advice needs to be very carefully given, if given at all. This is not counseling. Counseling has a specific role. Now, what's interesting is this is not less than counseling either. I read just a few days ago on social media, a very well-respected person within the marriage field has all the letters after their names they're supposed to have, some of the which you have. And they said a majority of the young clients I see today really don't need clinical counseling. They need mentors. So they don't have that in life. So this isn't secondary, but to know that there's a specific role. And so I think specifically if this is being played out in small group, you just don't give advice. You just listen. In marriage mentoring, advice can be given more. Just gotta be careful about it. That we are not the counselors. We're not in position to do that in any way.
I kind of look at it for the mentoring part of it as really encouragement. I tell our mentors as we interview new mentors and walk through the training and all that, we say, hey, we're not counselors. We are not trained counselors. We're encouraging. We really are just really trying to encourage the couple we're working with, or if it's in a small group setting, encourage each other. Yeah. So absolutely, that's vitally important. And a distinction about this is, and you talked about giving advice. It's better to describe our experiences. Yeah. Hey, this is what we've done. And what Kelly and I've done may not work for you guys. Adapt it. You figure out. And that's we weave that through there a lot. Is that, hey, I can't tell you what's going to work for you. You guys can figure it out. We've had to figure it out. We've made mistakes. We tripped and fallen and got back up and moved forward. But you'll figure it out. But this is what we describing our experiences is I think helpful.
Yeah. So the guidebook is laid out in 12 sessions. So some couples, some groups might meet every single week, and so they'll knock it out in 12 straight weeks. Yep. Others might go as long as once a month, and so they'll knock it out in a year. Most will fit somewhere in between that. So we begin with an opening session just on intention. It's a little bit shorter. The idea of let each other share their stories, figure out what's going on, but lays a very important framework and groundwork that hopefully weaves through everything that we're doing. It's this idea of intention. And then the other sessions are broken into these sections of friend, partner, and lover. Yep. So a couple on friendship. I think partnership is actually the longest section.
I think so.
That we have. And then the lover section, we talk about sex, then we talk about intimacy. So those are going to be two different conversations. And then this idea of faith. And then we have some bonus material that's in the back to assist people as well. But let's talk about what's the best way to use this guidebook. You've been doing this for some time. Yeah. What works better than other ways?
Okay, so being in education for 35 years as a professor, I'm all about homework. So I think part of it is most beneficial. We wrote it as kind of a workbook, a guidebook, and there is some homework to it. You can review the content of a chapter in a few minutes. I mean, we use a lot of bullet points. You could scan it and get the gist of what we're talking about. I think the benefit of it, you're going to gain the most of it, is going through the discussion questions. We have discussion questions that you review individually and look at and kind of reflect upon and write about. It's almost kind of a little bit of journaling, and don't freak out on journaling. I'm not a huge journaler either, but anyway, it is some questions, just reflection questions. Then some questions you could talk with your spouse or whoever your dating partner is or fiance. Those are important also. Those get the discussion rolling. And then finally meeting in a group, small group with some mentors and talking about it. And it's not just going through and answering questions. It's more, these questions are just kind of guiding discussion. These questions are just a starting point. There may be others you think of that you talk with your spouse about or ask your mentors about, hey, how'd you guys deal with this? I think those are great, but all of it is about it's driving people towards talking. It's driving people towards communication. The questions that we're asking, it's allowing them to be vulnerable, allowing them to talk about questions that they wouldn't normally out on a walk or sitting across for dinner. So we're kind of forcing it a little bit. Yeah.
No, absolutely. One thing I've seen over the years, and people are going to think we're biased on this, but we're really not. And this is such a minor thing. But if you just have me look at a couple, and they're going to go through this, and I can't talk to them, I can't do anything. There is one thing I look at to see, are they more likely to succeed or not, as this. Do both of them have a book?
Yeah.
And so there is this idea of, if we're not very careful, there can be one in the relationships that's responsible. And so they have the book, they're doing the homework, they're reminding that we go, all right, that's a red flag immediately. Right. We'll talk about it later in the session on partnership, on the idea of mental load. It's this who is holding on to the information that we need to do.
Right.
And so something very minor, but I think both individuals need a book. Both individuals need to go through it, because here's the thing. If your spouse is answering the questions and they're carrying the book and they're doing all that, and they look over and you aren't, I don't care what you think, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you believe, here's what is received. This isn't important to them.
Yeah.
And it goes from this isn't important to them to I'm not important to them.
Yeah.
So your spouse deserves kind of full involvement. And then we have a website. And so inside the guidebook, there's a QR code. You can go to changetheodds.com/becomingfpl. Changetheodds.com, you'll find it to get there. And we open with an assessment. And Randy, this assessment is interesting. So I worked with several marriage and family therapists. I kind of took the concepts of friends, partners, and lovers and what is out there from a kind of a psychology viewpoint of what really matters in a relationship. And so we have just 30 questions. Only takes a couple of minutes. It will give you a friendship score, a partnership score, and a lover's score. Those scores don't define everything you are, who you are, but it's a great starting point.
Right.
And so we would like each couple, go to changetheodds.com. As you start, take this assessment. See where you are. Look at where do we need to work. But not only that, look at where are we already strong and how can we build on that. And then our goal is at the end of the 12th session, you'll come back and take that again and see, has there been improvement? Have we progressed in some way at what's going on? And then within the website, there are other resources. These videos, so videos for marriage mentoring, 5-minute intro. We have 5-minute intro videos to each of the sessions that you can listen to on your way, maybe to remind yourself of what you read. Maybe that week you didn't get to read. It will help you to know what's going on. There's also 15-minute videos for small groups. If you want to watch live in your living room, you can watch these videos, and it's just me teaching through what's going on. Then there's other resources, books, articles, all the links that are in here are found there at Change the Odds. And I think it will really help couples kind of get more information.
Yeah. And Kevin, I'm super excited about the guidebook. I'm excited. I guess I'm excited about relationships in general. You know, I want to see people, marriage should be fun. You know, it should be healthy. It should be growing and thriving. It should be, it's what we strive for. So I'm excited to see how this is going to be used in small group settings, in marriage mentoring to grow relationships and draw people closer to God.
No, that's exactly right. And let's end with this. Don't miss the title. So the book, my original book is Friends, Partners, Lovers, which is great. I love it. This is Becoming Friends, Partners, and Lovers. It's this idea of we are intentionally using this time to get on a pathway towards something we want to be. But notice this, it never stops.
That's what I was thinking the same thing. It's ongoing. We are continually becoming friends, partners, lovers, and even 35 years of marriage. I'm hoping to continue to grow in that.
No, that's exactly right. Randy, it's been an honor to work with you in this process. Happy with where we are. Hopefully it's helpful to other people. And it's our goal that you will have this experience and you truly will be on your pathway toward becoming friends, partners, and lovers.